It'd be like the turtleneck problems.
What's that? Yeah, you should say it's be a great idea.
It's a mic. I think I'm just gonna maybe hold it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like,
I don't think that's.
otherwise it's gonna like, yeah, unless you're like a guy wearing a t-shirt or something.
Oh. Around the house. I like it.
The well-architected framework, including the three main areas of trusted, easy, and adaptable. So, so thinking about those different areas, obviously, we want to know from you. You would like to know a trusted, easy, adaptable. That might be about the things that you've done in the past where you've had challenges, or it might be that you've got something coming up and you're facing into an issue that you want some help with. It might also be something that you've also sort of always been curious about, but not actually managed to tackle yet. So yeah, let us know, and we'll be sort of carrying you with us. We'll be representing you in the room itself. So if you've got any questions, make sure that you open up that chat window or the Q&A window, write down your question, and it will get answered there in the session. But if you've got any that you want us to take away, also put it down in the chat and we'll take it away there.
Yeah, that sounds cool. Brilliant. So yeah, it should be starting in 10 minutes or so when we kick off. Hopefully, if all is going to plan in the venue. I'm sure we're running around right now trying to get everything ready. But also, so last month was our very first architect community group in London. And one of the questions we asked was, what do you want to get out of the event, and what do you want to see presented, or if you want to present yourself? And we thought it'd be a great idea to open this up to all the online community, because we're hopefully going to be streaming every event going forwards, as long as this one works. This is success. So yeah, so we kind of want right now, if you could dive into the chat and first just say where you're from, so we can all say hi to you and just get chatting amongst yourselves, but also what do you want to get out of this? What do you want us to present or other people to present? Or if you've got something that you think is going to be really valuable to the architect community, is there something that you want to kind of shout about and talk about at one of the events as well? So yeah, over the next couple of minutes, while we're kind of getting ready, if you could just dive into the chat and start posting all that info in, and then we can kind of pull the data out afterwards and then kind of work out what we want to see going forwards. And if you do want to do a talk, then make sure you put your name on it as well and details, so we can kind of contact you later on.
Yeah, we had some great feedback from the community in our first session, our inaugural session, where everyone was like in person, and we had loads of coloured sticky notes where people were putting their ideas down. It was really colourful. But we divided it out just to give you a bit of a sense of guidance into business architecture. I think we had, didn't we? And then we had ecosystem. So if you've got things about the ecosystem you wanted to know about, that'd be great. And then we had Salesforce technical or technology section as well, where that was everything about the the different clouds and things like that. We got some really good suggestions in there. We had some about Salesforce Industries, what used to be called Velocity and how it's intended to be used. We had some stuff about App Exchange as well, and add-on packages. Careers was a good one. I thought that was quite interesting to hear that people were interested in how to sort of move their careers on in architecture.
There's so many different careers in the architectural space anyway. It's not just a technical architect,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's quite interesting.
Integration there was a massive sort of nucleus of integration centered suggestions and as DevOps.
DevOps, that's a big one as well. But yeah, we'd love to know. We've got our pop slide now, or you can see the slides, some different examples of things that we kind of showed to the group. But yeah, dump all your ideas in the chat, and hopefully you'll see the session coming to a screen near you. And also, so while you're doing that, what we're going to do is I'm going to kick off a video we created for London's Calling, which is an event we run in London every year, where all the Salesforce community across Europe pretty much kind of comes together to learn from each other. And we have 60 tracks of 60 talks throughout the day, and it is a lot of fun. And it's basically June next year, and the tickets are available right now, which you can buy. And also our call for speakers will be coming out shortly as well. So make sure you dive onto the website, and right at the bottom of the homepage is a place to sign up for the newsletter. And so when we announce the call for presenters, then you'll get notified there if you do want to present. And also, if you do get selected to present, you get a free ticket as well. So, or we'll refund the ticket if you've already purchased it. So it's always a good way to get free as well. So hope you're writing loads of cool, great ideas in the chat. And here is the video of what we got up to at London's Calling this year.
We'll see you soon.
Bye.
See ya.
So we're here at London's Calling 2022, and it's going to be an absolutely incredible day. We've got speakers, we've got sponsors, we've got food, we've got social photos, we've got a demo jam, and it is going to be absolutely incredible. So if you want to take a look of what we've been up to, then come in and I'll show you around.
London Calling, it's probably the biggest event in the whole Europe and probably the whole world these days.
Of course, there's a great vibe at London's Calling, and that is what it's all about. And when we are back in here, you think, how did we think that it was normal to do it online when we can actually feel these things? And these community events are not only important for relationships, obviously for career growth, but they allow you to keep up with the fast-paced new releases that Salesforce introduces 3 times a year. And you always fear of missing out and not read the latest documentation, and all these professionals that come in and share that knowledge help you keep up with that change.
There's a really good vibe here today. I mean, the weather always helps. We're in London, it's always touch and go, but it's a sunny day. The venue's amazing as well. Been walking around today thinking, what a great place to host an event, or someone told me that their friend got married here as well. Like, amazing venue. The sponsors have done a really good job as well. So the chill out tent outside is a fun place to hang out. We need some air as well. And there's lots of fun exploring to do with the sponsor sticker sheets. Collect all those stickers and hopefully get some swag.
I think in-person event is really important. Everybody would have known in the last 2 years, primarily because yes, you can listen to the technical aspect, you can get the technical elements of things, but the social aspect of it, meeting people, putting their faces to the names is really critical and really important. So a lot of people, like today, when I met them, I know them by faces on the virtual video calls, but when I see them in person, you tend to talk a lot more and you tend to know about them as well. And there is this bond which is the key aspect of this community and this ecosystem, and which was missing in this virtual world, where when you come in person, you kind of go beyond technology, where a personal bond is built. And which is the critical reason, though, why I like getting into the in-person events, basically.
Okay, hello everybody. Up there. Hey. We're here. Okay.
Can you see us?
Oh yes, we can see you. Woohoo! We're streaming online or got a Zoom meeting online. So hello everybody online. We had, I think we got about 300 people registered, but I don't know how many people are actually watching. So hello to you. Right, okay, we're here for the well-architected Christmas. I will flick off. Oh dear, smashed glass already. Didn't take long.
That's a way to make an entrance, that is.
You zoom into it. Okay. I don't even know what's on the next slide. Okay, do you want to do the next?
Yeah, so first of all, so welcome everyone, as Francis said, to the Architect Trailblazer Group well-architected Christmas session. Can I hear a word? Fantastic. First of all, before we go on, we want to say a big thank you to our sponsors. Do we have our rep?
Somewhere.
Where are they? No, that's a roll of tissue.
We'll do it at the end.
Unfortunately. Do you want to stand in?
Rebecca.
Yeah, sure. Excellent. So yeah, we want to say thank you to EPAM, our sponsors. They'll say a word at the very end. In the meantime, should we move?
Yeah, sure. We'll do it later.
Yeah.
Move on. So it's the Christmas jumper day, although I couldn't find my Christmas jumper. So I had Christmas glasses instead. So it's all good. We did it years ago and we did it a couple of years running, and then I think we've kind of carried it on in the admin group. This is back in 2014, but if you want to donate, then get your phone up. Come on, everybody get their phone up. Scan that QR code, even if it's like £2 or whatever, because also the government doubles the money because of gift aid. So if you donate £2, then the charity will get £4, which is all good. And I think the non-profit Success Pack still doesn't support gift aid, but that would be great at some point. It does. But yeah, has everybody done that? All good? Giving lots of money to charity? Cool. Oh, actually, we could go whiz back to EPAM.
We'll go back. Thank you. Want to say a quick word? Or?
My pleasure. Happy to have you. We're Global SI. You guys can reach out to us if you want. I'm not a salesperson.
Love it. Brilliant. Excellent. Cool. Okay. Agenda for tonight. The welcome, which I think we're in. And then we have
the well-architected team and of evangelists from Salesforce themselves. Does someone want to come up and do a quick hello? Yeah. But we will have an introduction to the well-architected framework. Then we'll have a bit of a break because that's too heavy for most people, and you need a drink. It's Christmas. And then we will have more of a collaborative, interactive, sort of workshop-y style bit of content. And for those of you virtually, you are included, so don't worry, you won't be left out. It will be you will be represented
but there's an opportunity for you to jump in with your questions and contribute to the discussion as well. Okay. And then that's at 7 o'clock. That's going to take a while, and then we will come back together for a close, very much like this.
And then go to the pub.
And then go to the pub.
Yeah, exactly. Except for if you're online, you'll just have to drink a beer or something while you're there.
Virtually. A virtual.
Cool. Okay. What time is it? Oh, wow. We're on time already.
Bang on time.
Bang on time. Well,
Good
yeah.
start.
Are we ready for then? Oh, no. Logistics. Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, we didn't fill this out. We'll do this later on. Let's do that later.
Yeah, that never happened.
That never happened. So let's welcome the well-architected team.
Awesome. Thank you. And we'll just get a couple slides up and we'll do our intros as part of our, once we get this on the screen. Oops, not share, not that way. Okay, so hello, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. My name is Susanna St. Germain, and I'm joined by
I'm Tom Letty.
And we are part of the Salesforce Architect Relations team. And you are in for a big treat because it's not just us. Usually we're out sort of evangelizing and talking about these products, but it's not just us here tonight. We actually have our entire Salesforce Architect Relations team here. So maybe give a wave. We have Zane Turner, Director of Architect Relations, Marissa Lowe on our team as well. Mark Braga. And we are just thrilled to be here with you this evening to talk about Salesforce Well Architected. Who here has heard of Salesforce Well Architected already? Raise your hands. Okay, well,
Nice.
awesome.
Nice.
So we are going, for those of you that didn't raise your hands, don't worry, we're going to do a bit of an introduction to Well Architected. And as the team already mentioned, after a break for food, you'll get a chance to get hands-on and start to apply some of those practices to a bit of a scenario and draw some artifacts and then come back and present. It should be a great time. But why don't we start first with a little bit of background. So for those of you who might not be familiar with the Architect Relations team, you just saw who we were, but I want to give you a bit of an introduction for the work that we've done at Salesforce. So you can see on the screen right here, this is a bit of a timeline. Back in 2019, if you were at Dreamforce that year, you might remember that that was the first time that we had space for architects on the Dreamforce show floor. And after that year, we continued to build our team. So Zane, who's in the room today, she was a team of one at that point as an architect evangelist. And over the years, as we built our products, we've also built out our team. So in 2020, a very exciting time, we launched the architect.salesforce.com website, which is the digital home for architects. Who's checked out the website? Okay, hopefully more of you will raise your hands if I ask that question at the end of the session. So there's tons of awesome resources on here. We won't be going through all of them today, but there's diagram templates, there's reference architectures, the data models that used to live on the SOAP API documentation and were kind of updated are now living on the architect website. So highly recommend you check that out. And then in 2021, we launched another exciting initiative called Salesforce Diagrams. Speaking of diagrams, which is a way to make sure that you're not reinventing the wheel when you're going to build diagrams. We have templates, we have icons, so you don't need to search Google to search for like Salesforce icon and grab it and paste it into your diagram. We also have those data models that I talked about and also lots of guidance around how to build great diagrams. And then coming to the present, 2022, at Dreamforce this past year, we announced the launch of Salesforce Well Architected. It's our newest product, which we are here to talk with you today about. So why don't we get into that?
All right. So what is Well Architected? Well Architected is basically, it's a framework that we've put together to help you understand what health looks like and where to spend your time as an architect. And it consists of prescriptive guidance that will help you step through architectural thinking on the Salesforce Customer 360. And it is organized to help you build solutions that are trusted, easy, and adaptable. So we can see that trusted solutions protect stakeholders. Easy solutions deliver value to your business quickly. and adaptable solutions evolve with your business. And we can take a little bit of a deeper look and see what we can talk about.
At first, yeah, just to take a step back. So I know a lot of you raised your hands where you've heard of Well Architected already, but maybe not all of you are familiar with the fact that Well Architected isn't a Salesforce invention. And we wanted to be really transparent and clear about that. So Well Architected exists across the industry and has for many years, led by AWS Well Architected. That was the first framework that existed, in Azure and Google Cloud Platform followed suit. And what their flavors of Well Architected allow you to do is to figure out how to design and deploy workloads, and also to optimize spend on their infrastructure as a service platforms. And they do that through, like us, a series of white papers, and also some tools and auditing, things like maturity scorecards that help you know if you're building things the right way. And the technical scope of all of these other well-architected frameworks is that single cloud substrate. So if it's the AWS well-architected framework, it's AWS, Azure, so on and so forth. But since we all know that Salesforce is inherently different, it's not an infrastructure as a service platform, you don't need to worry about optimizing your spend as much. The well-architected framework that we started to build, we knew had to be inherently different as well.
And that is because we are not a cloud substrate provider. We make enterprise software. So our approach is a little bit different because it is about delivering value to the business. So when we think about what we want to help you do, it is design and roadmap healthy solutions and optimizing where to spend your time as an architect. And the way that we're doing that is we actually have a similar framework that consists of white papers. So if you have seen any of the other well-architected frameworks, the structure will look familiar, and then we're working on some tools as well. And our specific scope is around the Salesforce Customer 360 platform. Sometimes you may have heard it called the core platform, but that is currently the scope of Well Architected.
And to get to the nitty gritty, so you might be like, great, that's a great concept, but what have you delivered? Like, what can I get my hands on today? We wanted to make it, again, very transparent about what you can find on our website. So that's where we've delivered this product. And what Well Architected is, and again, just to be crystal clear, is it's for everyone. It's not just for customer architects. Salesforce internal architects are using it as well. Folks who are maybe not even architects, but admins or developers are trying to find ways to incorporate this well-architected principle into their work. And it's through what we've delivered, which is white papers that contain prescriptive guidance and patterns and anti-patterns built around those three pillars that you saw previously: trusted, easy, and adaptable. And the scope of what we have available today live on the website is the Customer 360 platform, which we internally refer to as core and near core products. So think sales, service today, marketing cloud, commerce cloud in the near future. And what is not available today or is not available in the white papers, one is guidance around choosing the right tool. And the reason why we don't include that guidance in Well Architected is because we have a different product for that. It does a better job of helping you weigh your different pros and cons when you're deciding to choose the right tool. And that's a tool on our website called Decision Guide. So if you haven't checked those out, definitely take a look. Also, what's missing or is not in the white papers today are non-core products. So think like Slack and Tableau. We're looking at how to incorporate MuleSoft maybe in the near term, because there's a lot of crossover when we get to the adaptable pillar, and you'll learn more about that in just a bit. And also industry-specific guidance and pre-sales positioning today is not in Well Architected. But let's look at what is.
Yeah, so we heard the words trusted, easy, and adaptable a little bit earlier, and we can see that we can take a deeper dive into these and see that each one of them is made up of a set of subtopics. So when we look at trusted, we think about security, compliance, and reliability. Easy, it comes to simplicity and not over-engineering your solutions, automations, and building engaging solutions. And then adaptability involves resilience and composability. And we're going to do a deeper dive into what each of those mean. Yes.
Each of these, and again, all of these describe what a healthy system should look like. So it should be trusted. And we say here, trusted solutions protect the business and stakeholders. And they do that by having three main characteristics. So the first one is by being secure. And we're all, as architects, as maybe admins or developers in the room, you're all very familiar with dealing with the different controls that Salesforce has for handling security. And three of the different categories that we realized were sort of overarching when we looked at all of the tools and the platform as a whole. And those three areas are organizational security, session security, and data security.
Hey, Suzanne, sorry, I'm just gonna lead into your remote mics of both of here. Hey, remote viewers. One thing to pay attention as Tom and Suzanne are going through this, it's a lot of like looking at an outline and like listing bulleted things. But a big part of what we strove for with Well Architected, you'll see, is it's also about how to organize your thinking as an architect. A surface area that can be massive and confusing, like all of trust. It's Salesforce's #1 value. What enterprise doesn't care about trust? We've broken it down into these units. And so then even something like security, which could be massive, we've tried to help you wrap your arms around it. And we do that by then giving you these sort of 3 dimensions. So that's another way of like listening to this listing of an outline. It's also about how should you be thinking like an architect, and we have an opinion and a point of view on what that means for you.
Yeah, and how should you prioritize your time? So I think that's a really great point, and it's a good time to highlight too that the pillars of trust, easy, and adaptable are also in priority order. These are in priority order as well. These sub concerns. So in addition to security, you have to worry about compliance. So compliance is a huge concern for businesses nowadays, not just Salesforce. Businesses, any business across the globe has to adhere to legal regulations like the GDPR in the EU, like the CCPA in California. Ethical standards as well are incredibly important to make sure that you're doing business well. And accessibility. So as architects, accessibility is within our purview. We have to think about how users of all abilities are going to leverage the solutions that we build. And then finally, within this trusted pillar, reliability. So as an architect, this probably isn't a surprise to see things like availability, performance, and scalability. So making sure that what you build can withstand any number of users, even on Christmas sale day, right, even when you have lots of transactions, and that you can operate efficiently and dependably regardless of what's happening outside your organization. So this is as Zane mentioned, the high-level framework, but we want to show you some of the lessons that we learned, some of the highlights across the trusted pillar. So why don't we take a look at that?
Yeah, so when we look at trusted, so there's a few things that come to mind here. The first one is the concepts of authentication and authorization. And if you can see, we've got, creating users based on individuals, not personas, but then thinking about what users can access in terms of personas and not individuals. And this it might even look a little bit straightforward on this slide, but it's pretty novel because there was nowhere in Salesforce that talked about this before. And, one of the ways you can think about this is, I can tell you a story. I know early in my career, I did this. I'm guessing maybe if we did a show of hands, other people have done this, but the idea of creating one user called integration user that handles all of the records that are created by every integration to your system. And then you end up with performance issues because you've got data skew, and you end up with not being able to audit who created and updated what record because they all just say integration user as a record owner. So that's the idea of creating, thinking about authorization based on users and are based on individuals, not personas. And then when you think about personas in terms of authorization, this is the approach of not using profiles anymore to give authorization, but using permission sets instead, so that you can get more granular and think more in terms of what types of personas need what types of access. And OWDs, this one's been, we've had a lot of discussions about this, but the idea of setting OWDs to public read only unless your business deals with sensitive data. So the default way of thinking when you think about principle of least privilege is to always set everything to private and then open it up from there. One of the issues that can cause, though, is you can overcomplicate your sharing model, and you could end up leading to performance issues. You can give people access to records that you didn't intend to give them access to because you've created so many complex overlapping sharing rules that suddenly unintentionally someone ends up in multiple groups that they end up with records access that they shouldn't have. So thinking about using your best judgment on when to use private versus public read only. And then failure mitigation. If you notice, we've got classifying triggers for that could cause issues in your system based on people, process, and technology. And technology is actually the lowest one in this table. And the idea here is because usually there's definitely a technical issue that would cause a failure in your system. But if you really dig down to the root cause, a lot of times there's an underlying business process that might be failing that you need to change, or maybe you need to change, there's a policy that you need to change because it's actually a people issue and not directly, the technical issue is more of a surface issue than what's underneath.
So those are just some of the concerns around the trusted pillar and some of the things that we've learned. But let's move ahead and dive into easy, which is one of, I think, the pillars that I like to explain the most, because on the surface, it might look like, well, your job should be easy as an architect. We all know that that's not the truth. One of the reasons why architects are in such demand is that you are all handling some of the toughest, most challenging problems for your business. So when we say easy, what we mean is that as an architect, you've already made the hard decisions that need to be made so that your system is easy for your users to use, and so that it's easy for yourself and for those that follow you to maintain your system. And you can do that by prioritizing and focusing on 3 main areas. So the first area is simple. So simple solutions, what we mean by that is that they follow the most direct path in engineering. So you think about concepts like making sure that your solution is readable, whether you're writing code or whether you're building a flow. You want to make sure that that solution can be read and understood by others that follow you. In the same vein, you want to make sure that what you're building is maintainable so that it's easy for those. If you roll up a project, it's not, mysterious or hard for others to keep that solution going. And then intentionality. And I think that sort of connects well to what we talked about previously with OWDs of read only. Like, you're making intentional solutions that make your solution more simple. Moving on, the concept of automation. So when we think about automated solutions, we want to make sure that you're not just automating all the things because Salesforce can automate all the things. You want to make sure that what you automate is actually helping your business meet goals and objectives faster and at scale. And you can do that through focusing on logic. And we mean not necessarily the technology in this case, but making sure that your business process is well defined, that each process has a beginning and an end that's been leaned out, and you're not automating a bad process. Also, concerns like data integrity and, again, that business value. So you're automating the things that matter and prioritizing what you automate and having it be clear to both tech and business stakeholders why you're automating certain things. And then finally, engaging. So engaging solutions delight users and drive adoption. And this might sound like maybe an afterthought or a fluffy concept, but it's actually really important, because even if you build the most architecturally sound and amazing solution, if no one uses it and if folks aren't using it in the right way, then all of that work kind of doesn't matter so much. So engaging solutions are streamlined. You're not asking folks to enter a lot of data that they don't need to enter. And they're also helpful. So they help your user do their job, and they're frankly a delight to use. And through the easy pillar, we learned, again, some interesting things, and Tom's going to give you the skinny on that.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because a couple of these items here are things that, as an architect, you might think, well, is this even really my job? So when you think about something like documentation, right? Making sure that that you have meaningful documentation and overviews of your solutions, records of your decisions, that making sure that any developers you're working with are documenting their code. And the reason that this is important is because eventually you're going to want to roll off whatever project you're working on and hand it over to another architect. Maybe it gets handed over to a delivery team or a maintenance team. And you're not going to want to be having to answer the phone every 5 minutes to explain something or revisit decisions that were already made, or explain why a decision was made 8 months ago that you don't even remember why anymore. But if you've got that records and good documentation, you can hand things over to whoever is going to be working on it next, and it'll help your solution be sustainable over the long term as well. Automation, we talked about using SOSL for searches and to treat SOQL like a data operation. And there's some reasons for that you can actually read in the well-architected framework, but it's actually, every time you use a SOQL statement, under the hood, the platform is reserving resources if it was going to be doing a data operation, versus using SOSL, where you can just search for something and it'll help with performance.
And I think this is a good call out to say that our team, while we led the charge for Well Architected, we didn't build it in a silo. So we worked with our engineering and product teams, and that's how we came to arrive at conclusions like this, by working with folks that work with the core database and are aware of patterns that they've seen in some of the largest customers and roadblocks like like this.
Yes. And another thing under automation is the idea of optimizing your automations is not about one automation per object. And this is still in our documentations in some places that you may see. It is actually not the recommendation in Well Architected, because maybe 5 years ago that was great when we were using workflow rules and there were reasons that that those recommendations were made. But today we've got, number one, we've got a lot of orchestration tools that you can use. So if you know how to use those tools the right way, you should be able to orchestrate your automations rather than building one monolith automation that does everything for an object just because you think you're only supposed to build one. But then there's also things like being aware of the order of execution and how things are going to execute under the covers and behind the hood, sorry, when you are building automations. And then
Sorry, so we have one question here.
Sorry, I just want to clarify that. So you said that we've got lots of automation tools.
Mhm.
There was one sort of recommendation, like you say, back in the day, back in my day, that said one automation per object. But then there was another that said, sorry. There was another rule that then said, because we've got so many different automation tools, we should be using one automation tool rather than multiple for the same purpose.
Yeah.
So can you clarify that a little bit?
Also not a recommendation anymore. Yeah. So probably was a recommendation at one time. And the idea is, yeah, if you're mixing, triggers and flows and, you've got a bunch of different options for how to automate different processes, that used to be really hard to keep track of, and you couldn't guarantee the order that something was going to execute in. But there's frameworks that you can use for trigger handling, and there are tools like Flow Orchestrator, and
You can
call Apex from Flow. So there are a lot of ways to handle that, and really what it is if you think about all the different automation tools as a bunch of tools that are in a toolbox, and knowing the right tools to use at the right time, and then using whatever you need to do to stitch those together and make sure that they execute in the order that you're expecting them to is a better approach than just saying, oh, I can only use this one tool and I can only build one automation with this tool.
Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah.
And to add on to your point, Sam, good question. Sorry to make the camera operator turn. Hi. And the stance you'll see in Well Architected is twofold to add on to that automation can be pro, low code, no code. We don't really care. It's making it so a human doesn't have to do the thing is what automation should be doing. And you should care more about optimizing for the greatest KPIs. And then your concern about what tools should you use, again, use a decision guide for that. That's based on who's on staff and who will own it. It's based on where you've already made investments. It's based on a bunch of other considerations that are specific to your business. But as an architect, to be well architected, you should care about optimizing automations that drive value for the business. That's the bottom line.
I think that's a great point, because as you look at these, when we think about automation logic, data integrity, and business value, those are sort of tool agnostic. Those are basics that apply whether you're working with Apex, Flow, or
Yeah, exactly. And lastly, we've got recognition and rewards, and this is one of the other ones that you might be thinking, well, as an architect, do I really care about if people see confetti when they save a record, or do I really? And yeah, actually it is. It's important for a couple of reasons. So if you have a system that's not engaging, and I can actually tell you, I don't it's before, unfortunately, users didn't want to use it. They ended up trying to rush through their tasks as quickly as they could because they wanted to get out of the system where they didn't really understand what the work that they were doing did for their overall organization and how it contributed to the organization's KPIs. So by them rushing through and trying to get things done as quickly as possible, they made a bunch of mistakes. We ended up with data quality issues and issues that did turn into architectural issues that where the root cause was that the system just wasn't engaging and nobody wanted to use it. So as an architect, you should be thinking about, when are the right times to show recognition and rewards in a system? What do we need to do to make sure that users understand that their work that they're doing is actually being valued by the organization and contributing to the organization's overall KPI?
And it's different for each user group too, right? It's not just you figure out one recognition and reward strategy for your org, it varies. So rounding the third pillar, so we're going to talk about adaptable next. And adaptable solutions are all about evolving with the business and constructing your solution so that you can be adaptable. Because that's the vision, right, that we've all bought into. It's why we've chosen Salesforce as a platform versus something else. It's so we can move faster. It's so we can build and swap out components when we need. But you can easily architect yourself into a place where you're not able to leverage those great capabilities that come out of the box with Salesforce. So 2 areas to prioritize your work when you're thinking about adaptable solutions are resilience. So this involves things like incident response. So what do you do when there is maybe a loss of data? Do you have things like a business continuity plan to handle if there's outage for whatever reason? Also things like application lifecycle management. So how are you going to move your changes from your development environment to production and manage that whole process? And how do you make it, again, as resilient? So handling change when there's multiple groups working, when there's a certain pace that needs to be met, how are you handling that to be as efficient as possible? And then finally, composable. So composable solutions adjust quickly and with greater stability. And they do that in a number of ways. One, by separation of concerns. And this will get into one of the recommendations that we'll talk about in just a second, which is to make sure that you don't have tightly coupled metadata and org. So having lots of org dependencies. And we'll have a big recommendation coming up around that, how to better separate those concerns. Yeah. Also things like packageability. So how are you actually moving your code and your configuration across your orgs and isolating them so that they can, again, be as resilient and efficient as possible. So let's look at some lessons learned with adaptable.
Yeah. So the first thing is around application lifecycle management. And the biggest recommendation there is stop using change sets on org-based development. And I'm guessing a lot of orgs are still doing that. But the thing is, when you do that, what it does is it makes your production org essentially the source of truth for all of your metadata. And that's not really a best case scenario, because if you have a production issue, it's going to be really hard to restore that. If you use source control, and then you can think about, what type of release mechanism you want to use. So there's packaging, there's DevOps Center. That's going to be based on your teams, what capabilities you have, how mature your organization is. But the idea is, if you're using source-based development and whatever release mechanism makes the most sense for your organization, you're going to have a lot more of a resilient org, because you'll be able to rely on your source control as your source of truth for all of your metadata, rather than just production. And then when we think about composability, this is what Susanna talked about earlier, of not making a bunch of org dependencies in your metadata. And this is actually probably the most complicated topic that we cover in Well Architected. But the idea is to split things up into functional units that align to your business capabilities. Think about how they can interoperate with each other and integrate with each other, and then how they can be packaged. So if you've got a multi-org strategy that needs similar functionality in more than one org, how can you deploy that to multiple orgs? And to be thinking about these things, and as opposed to building monolith development with that's dependent on the org that it's built in.
And even not just across orgs, it's also within an org as well.
That's
so
true.
Thinking about how you're going to group your functional units, maybe you serve different business units in a particular org, and one business unit needs to move faster than another. In this future state that we're describing, you're grouping your functional units and then designing how those different packages potentially are going to be able to be swapped in and out, and also how you're going to communicate across these functional units as well.
I've got a question online, which is kind of related to this. Is a bit from the automation tool point of view, but coming back to the automation tool point, from an architectural perspective, what do you think is the best model for creating a means of governing automation across Salesforce orgs, or across a Salesforce org? Sorry.
So I think one of the first things to think about is having good design standards. So making sure that you've documented, as an org, we decide to go with flow when we encounter these problems, and here's why. Or we choose and skew towards Apex when we encounter this problem. So just making sure everyone's making decisions using the same almost decision tree, I would say, is a great start to have some sort of consistency and governance.
Yeah, that's the best start. And then Also, regular reviews to make sure that those standards are being followed before something gets moved into a production environment.
So I just had a question. So now in regards to general recommendation, in regards to recommendations, so for DevOps, especially if it's a large organization, is it still recommended to have a single org strategy, or with Development Hub managing multiple dev cycles, would that be multi-org strategy?
I think your org strategy is actually going to depend more. It's not going to just depend on your development strategy, right? That's going to depend more on your business requirements and how many business units you have and how they operate differently. And there's a number of different things that go into your org strategy. So I don't know if there's I don't know that answered your question, but you should be able to deploy to multiple orgs if you need to.
Okay.
Is there a question in the back?
I was just adding the automation thing that, yes, governance would actually, yeah. Yes, from a governance perspective, if you have a specific way and design principles, yes, of course, but it's also important to consider that we need to update it. It's a live document.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people forget it's not a one-time thing. So just adding that.
That's an excellent point. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that's true for all of your standards and documentation and everything, is that they're living documents. So.
Any other questions? Because I think we've rounded the well-architected home bases. I think we're just coming in on what's next. So any other questions before we move on?
Yeah, hi, I've got a question. So how you said it's for everybody, but how does it vary from if you're working directly in an org that's used as sort of the business org, or if you're an ISV, or even if you're an OEM, because they each come with their own different flavors of using the platform and the tools. So how does the well-architected framework deal with some of the additional constraints that some of these other partner models have to work with?
So I think the basics of well-architected should be able to be used by anyone, but we don't have a specific flavor for ISVs or for partners, for customers. We're trying to create something that is high level enough to span across different personas and span across different product areas as well.
Yeah.
And just adding on, I will come to the front. I will not make you turn. Hi, hello. And just adding on to what Susanna just said. So we want, especially in V1 of well-architected, what you're going to find is more of that agnostic, here's the line in the sand and how you should be thinking about this. And it is intended to be something that is, if you are being architecturally responsible with our products, here's a perspective and an opinionated point of view for you to push against and to say, well, this breaks down for me for XYZ reasons. I didn't think about it that way. So from that perspective, it should be agnostic in terms of your business end goal. But what you're going to not find that you may then find other places, like we already said, decision guides are going to tell you what tool to use. But if you're looking for a specific design pattern, maybe around environment management or ALM or packaging strategy, some of those have very material differences depending on what your end goal is. And we're building out a lot of those design patterns right now. So what you're going to notice is that we don't have a whole gallery of specific packaging strategy patterns that are available right away. We have some general patterns and anti-patterns that assume that you're looking within an org or within a company. That's what you'll find today.
Okay, so yeah.
A very small question, just to clarify. So we talked about core custom and that constituting customer 360. You also sort of briefly talked about, was it near core? Was that the term? And that would include industries potentially?
Industries would be core.
Industries would be core.
So core is anything, then you could, core is anything the CRM sector, that sort of CRM wheelhouse that Salesforce is known for. So industries, nonprofit success pack, all of those things would be core, but then marketing, commerce, those are going to be sort of near
core. Okay. Excellent. Thanks.
Okay, so what's next? Well, what we want to have all of you do this evening actually is get hands-on with the concepts that we just reviewed at a high level tonight. And you're going to do that by getting hands-on with what we call a well-architected workshop. So we'll hand it back over. I know you're going to have a break to get some food and beverages, but what's next after the break is a workshop.
Cool. Yeah, and everybody who's online, if you go grab a coffee, a beer, whatever you can access, we're going to do the same, and we'll be back in probably about 10 minutes. Yeah, looking at that, and then yeah, you'll be following a group, one of our groups.
Yeah, big round of applause for
Yeah.
We'll be seeing a lot more of them for the rest of this session, so yeah, be prepared.
Cool.
And now it seems a lot of people disagree.
Run away to the next one.
So we still have a business, hopefully, but they usually get kind of
Cool. Hello and welcome to the Salesforce Architect Community Group live stream. Is that right?
That's right.
Me and Sam here. Now we're actually currently setting up at the venue. So you are watching this and it's all kind of pre-recorded. But we wanted to get your feedback before we started on what you want to see at these events. So in a couple of minutes, or in a little while, we'll be kind of kicking off the live stream at the venue, and we'll go straight into the kind of the welcome and well-architected framework with the Salesforce evangelists all over from the US, which could be amazing. And also, if you do have any questions while they're presenting, be sure to kind of put them in the Q&A or in the chat so that we can kind of ask them in the room if we get time for Q&A. Cool. So, Sam, what do we want to know? What the info that we want to get from these lovely people online?
Well, we know our well-architected workshop in London tomorrow. Well, actually, today now.
15 minutes.
Right? Absolutely now. You're nearly there. Watch this space. But it's going to be a fantastic session where you're going to get lots of insight into the well-architected framework, including the three main areas of trusted, easy, and adaptable. So, so thinking about those different areas, obviously, we want to know from you, what is it that you would like to know in order to make your solutions trusted, easy, adaptable? That might be about the things that you've done in the past where you've had challenges, or it might be that you've got something coming up and you're facing into an issue that you want some help with. It might also be something that you've also always been curious about, but not actually managed to tackle yet. So yeah, let us know, and we'll be sort of carrying you with us. We'll be representing you in the room itself. So if you've got any questions, make sure that you open up that chat window or the Q&A window, write down your question, and it will get answered there in the session. But if you've got any that you want us to take away, also put it down in the chat and we'll take it away there.
Yeah, that sounds cool. Brilliant. So yeah, it should be starting in, 10 minutes or so when we kick off. Hopefully, if all is going to plan in the venue. I'm sure we're running around right now trying to get everything ready. But also, so last month was our very first architect community group in London. And one of the questions we asked was, what do you want to get out of the event, and what do you want to see presented, or if you want to present yourself? And we thought it'd be a great idea to open this up to all the online community, because we're hopefully going to be streaming every event going forwards, as long as this one works. This is a success. So yeah, so we kind of want right now, if you could dive into the chat and first just say where you're from, so we can all say hi to you and just get chatting amongst yourselves, but also, what do you want to get out of this? What do you want us to present or other people to present? Or if you've got something that you think is going to be really valuable to the architect community, is there something that you want to kind of shout about and talk about at one of the events as well? So yeah, over the next couple of minutes, while we're kind of getting ready, if you could just dive into the chat and start posting all that info in, and then we can kind of pull the data out afterwards and then kind of work out what we want to see going forwards. And if you do want to do a talk, then make sure you put your name on it as well and details, so we can kind of contact you later on.
Yeah, we had some great feedback from the community in our first session, our inaugural session, where everyone was like in person, and we had loads of coloured sticky notes where people were putting their ideas down. It was really colourful. But we divided it out just to give you a bit of a sense of guidance into business architecture. I think we had, didn't we? And then we had ecosystem. So if you've got things about the ecosystem you wanted to know about, that'd be great. And then we had Salesforce technical or technology section as well, where that was everything about the different clouds and things like that. We got some really good suggestions in there. We had some about Salesforce Industries, what used to be called Velocity and how it's intended to be used. We had some stuff about App Exchange as well, and add-on packages. Careers was a good one. I thought that was quite interesting to hear that people were interested in how to sort of move their careers on in architecture.
There's so
what
many
else do we have?
different careers in the architectural space anyway. It's not just a technical architect, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was quite interesting.
Integration with there was a massive, like, you know, sort of nucleus of integration centered suggestions as well as DevOps.
DevOps.
That's it,
That's a big one as well. But yeah, we'd love to know. We've got our pop slide now, or you can see the slides, some different examples of things that we kind of showed to the group. But yeah, dump all your ideas in the chat, and hopefully you'll see the session.
Because like there's anything, but you need to look at it and it's not an input, it's not a good one. So if you have it in one place, yeah, I know. All right, well, thanks so much.
Oh, that's good, really. Okay. Right, we've come to my You've got quite a lot of recognition though recently. Most of the energy. Okay. Yeah. Right. I feel like it's been. Yeah.
How are you?
Just like a that's well. Yeah.
Should we create something in your
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's time to time.
Yeah, join it. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just
Okay, everybody's almost here. Hopefully. I'll chat outside. That was me shouting. Yeah. I don't know why I'm at the front because I have no idea what's going on now. I just smile and nod a lot. Yeah. There you go. Okay. No, this is you still, you know, the whole group, 10 people, each group. Okay, so we're now gonna break up into groups, okay? So you'll probably see outside, there's some tables, which has got some numbers on them. Now there's 2 out.
Susanna has some setup.
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna do a bit of setup.
Oh, you're gonna do setup first.
Once we're done with introducing what we're gonna do, you're gonna split up into groups of 10 people and we'll get into that. But why don't we do the setup?
Yeah, and then everybody online, you'll be following us into a room and you'll be helping on that one.
Awesome. Perfect.
Probably be about 4 groups, 4 or 5 groups.
We have room for up to like 7 groups,
Yeah,
so
okay. We'll fill them.
we'll fill it. Cool. Okay, so welcome back. Hopefully you got some good food and drink. This part of the presentation should be, you're going to be getting up and moving around, so don't worry, we won't be talking at you for much longer, but we are going to give a bit of a setup for what you're going to be doing, which is using some of the concepts that you saw earlier to solve a real life business scenario. And it's going to be focused on automation. But first, we'll record looking statement, right? Let's go over what we're going to cover. So we're going to do an introduction. Like I said, we're going to get into our hands-on solution design. After the 20 minutes to solve, we'll all come back into this room and share out solutions group by group. So you'll have one person who's the speaker for your group and share out what you built. And then we'll review a potential solution for the scenario that we're going to set up. And let's get into the introduction. Okay, so Tom, I think.
So we've seen this
Yeah.
slide. So what does well-architected look like? It's or it tells you what health looks like and where to spend your time.
Yep.
So it's got prescriptive guidance, it's got best practices and examples of patterns and anti-patterns. And it is organized to help you build solutions that are trusted, easy, and adaptable.
Yeah, but we want to get to a bit of a story first before we go further.
And I'm going to tell you, so what does a well-architected solution really look like? I'm going to tell you a story about what one looks like. And instead of being about Salesforce, though, this one's going to be about beer. I see a few people with beards. So it's an interesting story about me. So besides all of my Salesforce certifications, I actually used to work in the beer industry. And believe it or not, I am a certified beer expert. That's actually a thing. So I'm going to start with a question. How many people have seen one of these before? Hopefully everybody. They're pretty common in pubs, especially in Italy. And usually they're decorative today, right? But there was actually a time, believe it or not, that these served a functional purpose because beer was disgusting. Back a few hundred years ago, the reason that these were solid color was because you didn't want to have to look at what you were drinking because beer was like weird off color. It had things floating in it and it was just absolutely, there was no good filtration. It was really awful. The reason they had the top on it was so that you didn't have to smell it. It was literally, you could flip open the top, take a quick drink and then put it down and not have to think about it. And you would think, well, why would somebody drink something like that? And the reason is because water was actually worse than beer back then. This was a really disgusting time to be alive, let me tell you. The problem was people also didn't understand germ theory at the time, so they didn't realize that bringing your farm animals to a stream to drink water and then taking a bucket of water out of the same stream and bringing it home to drink would make you sick. So they didn't understand the science behind it, but the alcohol in the beer was actually killing the bacteria. So they just knew that even though it was disgusting, somehow when they drank beer, they didn't get sick, but when they drank water, they did. So they would just put up with however nasty beer was. But looking to a town called Pilsen, which is in the Czech Republic now, it's kind of changed hands between the Czech Republic, Germany, Poland over the years, but there was a town there where the beer actually was making people sick. So when you think about how bad it has to be for bacteria to be able to survive through a fermentation process and live in alcohol and still be strong enough to make you sick, that was pretty awful. So the people in Pilsen got really tired of dealing with being sick from no matter what they tried to drink. So they stormed the brewery, they dragged the brewmaster out in the street, they kicked over all the barrels of beer and they ran the brewmaster out of town, and that was it. They were done. But that didn't really solve the problem because all it really meant was now we don't have any beer, but the water is still making us sick. And things were not getting any better for them, and they didn't get better for a while. So if we go to the next slide, we can see our hero, Joseph Groll. So Joseph Groll was the son of a brewmaster from Bavaria, Germany. And his dad was really traditional and liked to do things in very specific ways. And Joseph Groll had ideas for how he could redo the brewing process and ways to make things a little bit better. His dad wasn't interested in trying, so he decided to go off on his own and get a job. And he heard that there was a job opening in Pilsen. So he went to Pilsen. He came to the town and said, okay, I'm going to be your new brewmaster. I'm going to go and gut the brewery. He went in, he ripped out all whatever equipment that hadn't already been destroyed by the townspeople. He ripped the rest of it out, threw it all away, started over completely from scratch. And it took him about 6 months, and he was up at night and people saw him working going, what is this crazy guy doing? And finally he was done. And then he brewed his first batch of beer, and he had improved all the filtration. He had made the mash tuns, which are the big copper kettles that you see beer brewing in. He made those airtight, and he had brewed his first batch of beer, and he called the town meeting and got all of the people in the town to come to this town meeting, which at the time was probably 500 people. It wasn't a lot, but what he did after he brewed his first beer, he came out of the brewery and he had beer in a glass instead of in one of these steins, and he held it up and you could see the sun shining through it. It was this gold, pure gold color. Didn't have things floating around in it. And he announced that he had brewed the world's first golden beer. And he held it up. He let everyone take a drink of it. It smelled like barley and hops, like beer is supposed to smell like. You didn't have chunks of things going down your throat when you were drinking it. And what happened from there was his brewing method spread throughout the rest of the Czech Republic, throughout the rest of Europe, eventually throughout the rest of the world. And they've been in use all the way up till today. So anytime anyone that's drinking a beer right now, there are different styles. The industry's evolved over the years. Everything has changed. It's been literally hundreds of years. But every beer that you drink, the methods that were used to brew it are based on a modernized version of Joseph Grohl's processes and the equipment that he used. So what does that have to do with well-architected?
Let's take a look to get drunk on sales.
Yes. Let's take a look at the framework and think about what we have. We have something now that's trusted. So I can drink this and I know I'm not going to get sick. That's something that's good to be able to trust, right? It's also easy. I don't have to use something special to drink my beer, and I can literally drink it out of any glass. And it's adaptable, right? It's evolved hundreds of years later. Craft beers, giant breweries, anybody that brews beer is using the same techniques that were used all the way back in Joseph Grohl's days. So we can applaud him for designing a well-architected solution 300 years before well-architected was even a thing. But you should be thinking about those same concepts with Salesforce. So you should be thinking about, your solution should be trusted. Your users should feel comfortable using them and feel like their data is being secure and they're being protected, that it complies with local regulations, that it's not going to fall apart if you have spikes in your data volume. It should be easy to use. It should not be over-engineered, and the automations should align with your business values and help your business meet its KPIs faster, and they should want to use it, right? And then it should be adaptable. So you shouldn't have to completely re-architect your solution because your business processes change or your business acquires another business. You should be able to evolve. And today we're going to actually look at how we can run through a workshop and see how we can build a solution like that.
Yeah, and we're going to focus on automated. So automated, as you saw from our previous presentation, is a part of the easy pillar, and automations help your business meet goals and objectives faster and at scale. But this is just the definition. Let's go a layer deeper and look at how you can actually use well-architected to build a better automated solution. This is a lot of information, and don't worry, you're going to get handouts at your tables when you break up with all of this. And really what this sort of cheat sheet is going through is saying, okay, for an automated solution, it should have clear logic, data integrity, and alignment to business value. And it does that for clear logic, for example, by considering business process optimization and planning for scale. And we talk about what that is, but then the most important part of this handout, I think, are the questions to ask. So how do you know that you have clear logic in your automation? Well, you can ask questions about if the process has a clear beginning and ending, does it have minimized required user input, and lots of other questions as well around each of these topics and considerations.
And one other quick note too is like Susanna said, we've got handouts. If you prefer to look on your phone, if you see the QR code up here, and you'll see it on the next couple of slides as well, you can scan that and it'll pull up the same table on your mobile device also.
Yeah, so you're going to be using these topics, considerations, and questions to solve your scenario, not just solve it anyway. You're building a well-architected automated solution. So let's introduce that scenario. And yeah, we'll kick it off. So in our fun activity this evening, we're following a fictional company called Dream Travel. And Dream Travel is a hospitality and travel company that, surprise, surprise, ooh, pizza. Last call for pizza, it looks like in the room. First call for pizza.
Start with bread. Have some garlic bread. You guys wait. Sorry, 75 minutes late or 40 minutes late delivering the pizza, but it's here now. We have 20.
This is a challenge of attention. Somebody came into the room.
It is. It is.
Still remember what is the topic of
So Dream Pizza. Just kidding. So we will break out so you can get some pizza while you solution in just a second. But Dream Travel. So they are a hospitality and travel company that uses Salesforce, and they want to improve the experience for customers dealing with delays when traveling. And so there are two challenges that you're going to be solving for. And there's a sheet in these packets that you'll have at your tables for each of the challenges. And you're going to spend equal amounts of time, so 10 minutes each for each of the problems. And we'll go around and let you know when your 10 minutes are up. And you're going to design diagrams for each of these challenges. So you'll have a big sheet of paper, go ahead and divide it up when you get out into your groups and make sure that you have space for each. Okay. So let's introduce challenge 1. Why don't we, Tom?
Yes, the first challenge. You can see the lovely process that Dream Travel has, and right now you can see that when customers call when customers have an unexpected delay or a problem, they'll call Dream Travel, and Dream Travel's call center agents will go through a series of scripted questions to gather information about the customers. They'll gather their travel preferences, and then they'll go through and they'll look for flights, hotels, local transportation. And while they're all doing all of this, the customer's on the call with them. So customers are complaining about really long call times, and during busy seasons, just like we have the holidays coming up, Dream Travel's customer sales reps are getting overwhelmed with the call volume that they have. So Dream Travel's executives would like to reduce the amount of time that customers are spending on the phone with their agents. So what you're going to do for challenge number 1 is take a look at this process and figure out, number 1, what is or isn't well architected about it, and then what can you do to improve that process. And then you're going to draw an updated process diagram.
Right. So no technology. You're not thinking about how do I solve this with Salesforce tools. You're just thinking about how to improve the call process using these topics and these considerations. That's challenge 1. And then challenge 2 is around the technology. So in challenge 2, Dream Travel wants to add functionality into their existing customer portal. So we're focusing on the customer here. And we want customers to be able to submit help requests without calling a travel agent. And Dream Travel started drafting the solution, but they're a little stuck. They need some help from you to identify if what they're building is well architected, and if it's not, how to make this particular flow. So we can see we're using a specific tool, flow, well architected for automation. And again, using these same topics and considerations and the questions in your guide.
And what you got at your tables, you'll see there's some paper and pens so that you can use to draw the diagrams together in groups, and then also some of these packets that have the table that we went through that has the questions to be asking yourselves. Yeah, the QR, and then also you'll find the scenario and both challenges as well. So you won't have to try and remember everything that we just showed you on the slides. That's all. It'll be in the packets.
Right. Yeah. So I think we're going to break now to split up into groups. Why don't we do 6 people per group? I think that'll allow folks to work a little bit better together. Let's maybe do a quick count off.
I think we've got about 40 people.
About 40 people.
Yeah, about 40, 45. So, and we've got another 46 online. So
fabulous.
So one room is going to be 90 of us. Great.
Good. You want to do a quick count off? So you know what group you're in? 1, 2.
2.
Just count up to 6 and then
Remember
number. 1,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, got 6. 6.
Can we do Okay, you got it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That was very good. Nice and round number, all on the right hand side. So this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Perfect.
So they pay me the big bucks.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Down the hospital track, the first doors are right. Grab some pizza before. Okay?
I'm saying
The things are not really gone out.
Thank you, guys. All right.
Yes.
It's 10 per. 10 per.
The calendar, but not one of them. Just the other one.
And there's handouts.
I'll be on this
Yeah.
I'll be on this the chat and the floor. Over there, right?
Yeah, it'll be in your in the packet.
Challenge 2.
I've got it.
Oh, you got it.
Okay, we're just rejigging. I'm just sending you the challenges now. Yeah, and hopefully we'll be in the room very shortly.
Yeah, I think it'll take people, we'll help them find their groups.
Yeah, and then we can do time reminders if you want. That's what we could probably do.
Yes.
Okay, got 40 people online. This is good. I will be your representative.
Oh, there it is. You okay then? Working?
Yeah, it is now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi everybody.
Hello.
Just getting you
Right.
the challenges now.
That's fine. Right. Does anybody have any preferences as to what group number they want to be? I think I might just go with group 1. Find group 1 in that room. I think probably be a good. Let me see if I can actually get the handout.
So we started the 10-minute timer for people to start.
Okay, you have started already. Okay. Trying to get people online. The document. Just need URLs. Oh, have they put it? Yeah. Okay. Cool. I haven't, but I will do. I'll go to group 1.
Maybe so group 1 is maybe we can get them to migrate.
Yeah. She's taking over this side. Yeah, you're good? Cool. Yeah, we're going to the other room. We'll be with you in just a second. We're taking you to the other room. Please bear with us. Your call is important to us. Okay. Cool. Here we are. I'm representing the online community.
So is someone going to be there?
Yeah.
I can't just do that. So the first thing I notice about this process,
Too long.
too long. It's also left to right, down, right to left. It's not a process in terms of people. A business process should be left to right, in my opinion. How you read a book, right?
Right. Yeah, we're getting into UML then. Document customer. Clear logic.
There's also, I don't understand. There's outputs and inputs to the next activity. What is the when do we move on to the next process step?
One of the things is one of the bits which is not right in this particular business process is they have created a step of the business process as input, but input input is an input to a process.
Exactly.
The process itself
Yep.
Has to be something else. So
it's not clear, is what you're saying.
yes. So there has to be a consistency in the
Do we have any more of these or just two of them?
Just those two.
Across the business process diagram, like everything is named as an action, and the input and output is actually the arrows named with what exactly is the input and output, making the process much more simpler to understand.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you want to write this down? What I just said? At least make to start with that. This like.
Yeah, so they're just basically asking, can you tell me this? Can you tell me this?
Yeah, and then over here it's like input customer details. That should be customer details on the top of the arrow, and the actual thing is search for client options. You get what I'm saying?
I'm in agreement with you.
Yeah.
So my question, what is the overall agenda? Like, how much are we trying to re-engineer this? Because at the end of the day, actually, like, if that would be my solution, the moment somebody would say that they will spend 20 minutes asking questions on the phone line, I would say that could be automated. That could be option, the option menu.
So firstly, we have to identify what's wrong. The
Yeah,
second
and then
thing
what's done well.
is, what would you recommend? What
Go around. For those of you on the call, if you've got any questions or you want to offer some input, please do. Please do shout. Put your.
Or what we are recommending.
Mine's outside.
So in terms of clear logic, I would say the process is way too long. So there is need for simplification.
Yeah.
Agree?
Yeah. Yeah. It's also.
So what needs? Okay. What's wrong?
It feels like a flow chart, not a business process as well.
Process too long and difficult to understand.
Are there any decision steps or anywhere that explains conditionality? Does that?
Yeah. So for example, here we got based on customer selection, right?
Right. So there's clearly a decision point, right? So there's, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can review the diagram, whether that's a step or a decision, right? That would visually make it more simpler.
Right.
Yeah.
Quick way to cut out some. So for example, we've got agent read script, agent read script, agent read script. That could all be in one box.
Is it serving just one purpose? I would say it has to serve one purpose, not multiple things. Otherwise, it's not focusing on one area, and you're mixing multiple things, and you'll not be able to like like a normalized database.
Yeah.
Normalized processes.
Yeah. So what I would say, number one, like Jack, right? Like Jack said, so any items that we first need to quickly understand the purpose of all the items where agent reads script. And see if they even actually necessary on the actual call. Maybe this could be gathered like a dial input or an automated message. Because I mean, at the end of the day, if imagine on a larger scale, if it's 200 agents 50 times a day reading the same question. That's like, you know.
Right, and that's actually covering the data integrity, right? Because entering it means you're doing it indirectly. So if you automate the input,
yeah, and then you would have, like, if you're typing it, of course you'll have data corruption. Whereas if you have a dial input, it will autofill.
Saying that the person dialing is now responsible, so you've passed the responsibility to the person making the inquiry. So the automation is not. Yes, there's automation, but you've also passed on the what is the inquiry? Is no longer a question to the business, but it's asking the customer to confirm what their inquiry is. Yeah, because if you are asking this question, press 1. If you're not asking this question, press 2.
Well, actually, Kathy makes a good point that I'll just add here. And she says, if the customer's calling because they have a problem, shouldn't all the basic travel information already exist on the customer record?
Well, that depends, because if they are calling from a unique number, so if the number is registered, of course, that could bring it up. But for example, usually, especially in the travel setting, if it's a company, there will be just an office manager who will manage all of them. And in the family, if you have a bigger family, there will usually only one person who's managing most of the things. So the question is, are you drawing the right data? So, you know, usually should start, are you the account holder? Is this number associated to your account? If not,
the actual question is very valid. But if I made the booking and then my wife calls to make an inquiry, they're two different.
Yeah, that's a very good point as well. Yeah. Okay.
And then you'll have 10 minutes for chance. Did you under the
so let's
the transaction handling, they've got too much input by hand
Yeah.
written
Yeah.
handling
Okay.
and writing it first.
All right. Do you want
Create a form to enter the details. The reason is it's reducing efficiency and prone to errors.
Okay.
And this can be
hold on, guys. Last one. We've got Richard Anthony on chat who's saying, should weight even be a process item?
No.
No. Okay, good. Thank you, Richard.
Can we have one thing that anyone knows anything about which they have noticed on the process around business value, a problem with business value?
So we need to move on to the next challenge because we're sort of time out on challenge 1.
It's effective KPI. This is just burning agent time.
Yeah.
So this is a very costly and inefficient process. Just reading 5,000 times a day the same questions.
Yeah.
And as a process diagram, it makes absolutely 0 sense. You've got inputs of activities.
And let's move to the next one. Time for the first challenge.
Yeah.
And so time to move on to the
Yeah. Thank you. So let's move on to the second one. I think you've got the.
Before we just go, I just want to quickly. Can we quickly address? So what do we want to write down in regards of clear prioritization? This is the only item we didn't address for the challenge 1.
Yes.
Clear prioritization. Yeah.
And effective KPIs.
So effective KPIs we wrote that it's a inefficient and it's a very costly from a business perspective. So I mean, obviously they will be measuring the wrong KPI. You know, you're measuring the call time, but actually you're not having call time. You're just conversing with the person, repeating.
Call time is just too long because of the amount of questions that the call handler is trying to ask.
Yeah. And for clear prioritization, what you guys would like to write down.
Let's move on to challenge 2.
I was just holding this back. This is the.
So any thoughts from the Q&A from the virtual audience on challenge 2? Please do provide your input.
Anything like that. They've introduced.
Yeah, not too bad. We're on challenge 2 at the moment. Sort of digesting it at the moment, I think. Got questions online. Here we go. Thank you, Samir. So you're saying in challenge 1, a booking reference ID can be used that has all the details logged in for once. Okay. Challenge 2, what are our thoughts on challenge 2 so far?
Thinking, do we push people online and do it through chatbots?
Is that making it sort of, so you've got to consider secure, you've got to consider easy, you've got to consider adaptable. Yeah.
Service driven, you don't necessarily feel a valued customer, but if you're driving speed and getting rid of basic questions, if you pushed people, if you had an FAQ, push people online,
right,
and the chatbots, because Salesforce has its own chatbot.
Yeah.
I think questions.
Tobias is on the same lines as you. He's saying challenge 2 also shows a travel booking process, and there needs to be a route for problem resolution, like you say, rather than booking a trip. Booking the trip isn't the issue. It's the problem resolution that is the issue.
That's what I'm thinking. Which is where the FAQ comes in, because the chatbot would have built up a knowledge base of the FAQs, and what normally happens is not the booking.
But I don't see where do they actually submit the request. So, for example, in this flow, like so the core issue is that they want to have a customer portal, basically self-service, right? To allow customers to submit help requests without calling the travel agent, right? But where in the flow do you actually see that they have, like, I'm just trying to understand where would they submit it and where would they be blocked? Like at the moment, it doesn't stand up to me where.
Firstly, do you actually need a portal? Can it just be on the website?
Okay, I think one clear thing is definitely something wrong. They don't have to go through all of it.
No.
Basically, there isn't any decision tree over here. So all the trip requirements would never be for all 3. So you don't have to go through the entire flow. That's the crux of it.
Yeah, and we don't.
Depending on the requirements, a decision tree, and only focusing on the area based on the requirements.
Right. So Richard Anthony's also said that you effectively, if I've got this right, he's saying you create one sort of journey that splits off depending on what type of request into subflows, for example. And then Ankita has also said on here that you could create separate forms based on the type of request. So you're sort of making this a bit more adaptable and flexible.
Yeah. Because obviously it's a single journey, and at the same time you don't see, like, is it a ideal journey where would they there's not even any information where would they fall off the journey, because when you
where's the error handling and what happens if you don't get any reservations?
Information. At what point does it go to an actual call handler? Because we can't resolve.
And that's missing from this stuff.
Justification is improved performance. Improve performance and customer experience.
Yeah, the experience, definitely. Yeah.
So that was you don't have to look for flights, hotel, everything together. What exactly you need, and we look for only those parts.
Yeah. Did you write down the single journey instead of multiple journeys?
Yeah,
that's thank you, Samir. Thank you, Stuart.
Okay, then error handling.
Error handling.
And basically, there should be clear points where somebody will be exiting this journey.
Yeah.
But how do we know that there is no error handling just like this? Because it might be in the logic itself. This is just a process. Right?
Okay, so I've not got my customer reference number because my wife booked the flight, or I don't know the
unless the assumption would be that at each of this would trigger a help request. But like, for example, by here, I literally don't know what will trigger the help request.
Yeah.
Will you have a button, or would that be a pop-up?
Will it?
Yeah. Like there's literally.
It might not feel like an API error that comes back or something, but
human error.
What if you can't complete the journey, like you can't book them on
on a trip. I've got a really good relevant case for
So
this.
what are we?
I flew with Austrian Airlines and I couldn't, the chatbot would not let me
But what exactly are we adding to the
basically.
automation?
Yeah, so basically the flow to clearly identify at least like top. I mean, obviously you can't preempt everything, but like main scenarios where somebody would exit the flow.
There has to be an exit. I think you're quite right. And Samir says here it's a linear process. It can't have a loop back around because that will then give you the potential for not coming to a resolution.
Which is what I had with Austrian.
Yeah.
They just kept going to the same thing.
Mm.
Go to this.
But
you started and you basically said, I need to speak to someone. Go to this.
Right, exactly. So the point is, if you've got to a point where you've gone around the loop, you have to know that you've given the customer an option to say, no, this isn't answering my question, and jump off into an exception process, right?
Yeah, and then at the same time, for example, if I'm let's say if I'm a customer who exited in the midway or exited at the end of the whole flow, right? Would that be a single support ticket or multiple support tickets? Like how will they be requesting this help?
So essentially, they go into the existing customer portal to allow customers to submit help requests without calling a travel agent.
So I think you've got to assume that they've got some sort of trigger point, call to action, or whatever.
Otherwise, you can't
put some information in.
Yeah, but my question is, so for example, if I'm a customer and I'm following this flow, right?
Yeah.
Am I submitting a customer request every single time I cannot process to a next step? Or am I able to still process saying, okay, you didn't complete it, or we didn't pull the data?
That's one instance to say.
Yeah, because that could be a single ticket saying I had these 5 problems, or it could be 5 tickets. And if you have 10,000,
this is not a ticket.
but the goal is so but the goal here is that clearly customer portal to allow customers to submit help requests.
There's one thing. What's missing is this particular thing. Ideally, why do we even need automation? There should be a self-serve. This is just finding and booking. Why do you even have to submit?
But I think the point that was made earlier was that it's not about the booking, it's about the getting help and resolution.
If you need some help,
yeah.
Let's say I want to change the booking, or let's say this is not an amendment, but
I think you covered that. I think you covered that use honestly with number 2. Like this should be self-service. You should be able to do this all on your own.
Yeah.
If an issue happens or there are no like accommodations that match, then there's that a jump off. But I would say keep looking down the topics and considerations. There's
okay. So in regards of clear logic,
what's the business value? This is adding because I guess we have got the data integrity and clear logic and the areas. What's the alignment to business value? To improve the customer experience so they don't call travel agent. Is this going to help them do that? The process is way too long and it's not going to add the value.
Unless, to what Richard Anthony's saying, is for KPIs, you want to resolve the request as quick as possible. Surely that is the value to the customer.
Yeah.
So to your point, the prioritization is get the customer rebooked as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
I think on the first one, there's steps that the customer call agent goes through collecting preferences. Is there like
it's already been stored somewhere and extra.
You might be able to like suggest
biggest value
that
the customer just gets so frustrated they just cancel.
Yeah, that's what you want to avoid.
Yeah.
Number 1.
Yeah.
I mean, so I guess we finished with clear logic, right? Or is there anything else? I mean, obviously, a automation should be scalable if it actually works, which I can't say works.
Unnecessary data requested that is already available.
Yep.
Basically, what we are recommending is use
the identifiers.
Existing customer data available to improve the process without need for input. I'll understand this.
Actually, it's hands down, like you volunteered to do that. I just feel so
grateful because I know somebody would ask me to do that.
Okay. Any input from the online community? The virtual audience?
This is
Time to resolution.
Yeah.
And okay, you highlighted your whole, when you started on that whole path, you had tied it to the business prioritization.
Yeah.
What was the priority?
Sorry?
What was your priority? You had.
The priority is the time to resolution. So how does everything go?
So you did a nice job of putting it in the customer.
Yes.
Which was like, that's green travel is a priority, but the way you phrased it the first time was like, from the customer's point of view. So
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, this is okay. The one that was more of a customer experience.
So we're ready for readout.
Cool.
Yeah. So
Okay.
bring your papers.
All right.
Come back.
All right. Thank you, Richard Anthony. Thank you, Tobias. Thank you, Stuart, Ankita, Samir, too.
Thanks, everybody.
And Jorg as well. Thank you. We will return to the and Kathy. I mustn't forget Kathy. And Paul. Yeah. We will return to the main room, and you will hear a representation of your readout to the rest of the group. Thank you.
Did you have a chance to grab a slice of pizza?
No.
No. It's
I don't really see that.
Me? No, I was just waiting for people to. There was, yeah. We.
No. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Hey. Come on in. Grab a seat. I know, you gotta feel the pressure. You're not eating pizza when you're.
There's too many distractions. One more group. All right. Right, we have one more group coming and then we will. If anything, we like that.
Yep.
Awesome.
Final group coming in?
Yeah.
Okay.
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 Right.
Cool. Ready? Okay. So, we ready? Good, good. Okay, we are going to pivot into the readout section of the evening. So we are going to start with group one, and you're going to answer 3 questions. What wasn't well architected in the challenge? Why is what you're presenting, your solution, meeting the business problem? And also, why is it well architected? So you'll start with challenge 1 and then move into challenge 2, and we'll give you 2 minutes.
2 minutes
for each. Yep. So I'll flip back to the challenge so you can see that this was the starting state, and then you can explain your future state, and I'll help you hold. I'll help you hold. Yeah.
All right.
You got it.
Human holder as well.
Got it.
So what we thought was the process was too long and difficult to understand. So definitely no clear logic. Hence, simplification is the first bit we would want to go. Of course, that's easier to scale.
All right.
easier to scale and manage a simple process, making it more maintainable was the key justification for simplification. In the data integrity pillar, we thought it was too much inputs by manual input, like, someone is actually entering, asking the customer, no need for that. So try and create a form, not trying to solutionize, but something on those lines where you have to reduce the inputs needed during the call conversations. And of course, that the rationale was the current approach was reducing efficiency and prone to errors and not correct data inputted into the system, which is it's kind of going to manage the analytics, impact the analytics overall in the future. Multiple, I don't understand my own writing, sorry. Basically, there was a lot of different things they were trying to do it in a single process. Kind of goes to the clear logic as well, but there is need for clear prioritization of what exactly the process is doing and have one process for one business value. So revising the process with reduction of call handling in mind and one business value per process reduces call handling time with the focus. You'd be able to simplify the process with less steps and much more accuracy.
Nice job.
Okay.
How about challenge 2?
Second loading.
Okay, so do we have to start this? So in terms of this one, I guess they try to do a pretty good job, but still failed. So appreciating and being more like empathetic with them anyways. The type of request was not filtered. They were trying to do all the three things: flights, hotels, everything in one single flow. Not needed. Everyone doesn't need everything together. So hence, added decision logic based on the request and divide it so the process itself is quicker for the customer, because that's the purpose, right? If you're trying to fill everything, like, I'm not going to do this, I will just call the agent. So it's not serving the purpose. No error handling. So what if there is something wrong in the flow? Where is validation? Where is the exit? So that wasn't there. So include validation and exit is the recommendation. Of course, the reason is the current flow is prone to fail and will impact the customer experience. You don't want to do that because, again, that's going to lead them to call the agents. Ideally, self-service for basic options like this. Yes, you're trying to do this. Why help request? Of course, from a customer experience angle, that's pretty good. Not necessarily from dream travel, because they will have to invest. But if you help them understand the ROI, as in how much it would reduce the operational cost for them versus what they are spending, then maybe yes, they would take that option for sure. And the reduced need for unnecessary kind of automation or flows would be kind of achieved. The last one is unnecessary data requested that is already available. So like you've got over there travel preferences, customer details. They've already logged in. Why ask that? So use the existing data where possible. Don't kind of request those details. And of course, that again improves the overall time to resolution for the customer experience anyway.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Nice job.
Group 2.
Right, so for the first challenge, we looked first of all at the business process. There was a lot of back and forth between the agent and the customer. Obviously, we don't want to keep on asking the customer for the same details over and over again. So what we did was looking at the process and try to simplify it. Also, we were hoping that once we have made, for example, a confirmation, we know what flight we want from a customer perspective, that will narrow down our list of available hotels. Similarly, when you choose a hotel, you already have a narrowed list for the transportation. So we're trying to streamline that business process to start with and optimize it, making it more simple and precise. So that's what we did. We just rewrote the business process. What else did we say? Doing so, we reduced the wait time. So we don't have that repeated conversation where the customer keeps on being asked the same questions over and over again. We already store them. We know what they are from the beginning of the conversation, and the length of the call would be shortened. Also through automation, we know that once we have made a selection, the next options that are shared with the customer will be narrowed down. So that's for the first challenge. And for the second one, we didn't really have time to rewrite it, but we did highlight what were the pain points. To start with, it looks like we have a few gaps. So there's no actual selection from the customer perspective. They're shown the list, they're shown preferences, short list of hotels, but there's nowhere in the process where they actually make a selection. So therefore, the end goal is not achieved. Other than that, we have no error handling. What if we don't have any hotel options for the date selected? What if there's no transport available for the preferences of the customer? There's nothing to handle that. When we have the reservation, the customer doesn't have the option to actually view the summary of the selection and make sure that what they're confirming is what they want to do. So we're missing a step over there as well. And then in terms of scalability, we want the option to be able to do a multi-selection of hotels and transport. So for a specific date range, you might want 2 or 3 hotels in different locations, or you might want to combine your transport, having a train and a taxi, not just a taxi, for example, which there's no option because we only have one record created for each of those. And I think that's a quick summary of the challenge too.
Group 3.
Yep. Don't think we have a lot of yeah, we can certainly present it, but yeah, we didn't get much chance to write it down, so I'll just try and at least explain it. So the first thing is that what we saw in this process and the second challenge is that we actually have 3 sub-processes. We are trying to book flights, we are trying to book hotels and transportations. There's a lot of
Can you read that?
that's see, it's validated. Come on, I need to see it. Anyways, back to the problem. So we see that there are 3 sub-processes. Now there's all of that is happening sequentially, which means that the wait times for each of those processes is actually quite high. So one of the things that we would recommend is, well, 2 things, basically, as far as process improvements. Instead of the agent entering the customer details, we should be getting those customer details presented to the agent. And 2, rather than these processes happening sequentially, we should be happening 3 parallel processes. Obviously, include all the error handlings in there, so that also include a couple of other things that we talked about, which is we have customer loyalty. We know about the customer, which means there could be entitlements as to the customer may or may not necessarily be afforded to reserve all those options. So account for all of those before we can present those options, and therefore reduce the number of processes that we have to execute when we are working with different customers. So those were some of the challenges that we solved with challenge 1. On similar lines, I think on challenge 2, we had a very similar process where we said that instead of having a sequential process, we'll probably use a flow orchestrator. Again, have a customer loyalty, rather than having multiple SOCL callouts, which is 2 get records, potentially combine those into a single callout using Apex invocables or things like those. Have those 3 separate processes depending on the choices that the customer has made or the choices that the customer is afforded based on the loyalty. We could then decide what options we are making. we made an assumption over here that flight would be the determining factor. So if we cannot find any flight options, then the hotel and the transportation options may not necessarily be required. So first, we could orchestrate in a way that if we don't get any flight options or if we get errors, then the other two callouts are not necessarily required. So those were the lines that we were thinking. But as you can see, we did an amazing diagram over here. Anybody wants, come and see.
Thank you.
Group 4. Come on up.
Go Group 4.
I can
This is the challenge one.
So this is the challenge one. So we'll go with challenge 1 first. So with challenge 1, we identified 2 journeys. One is like a first time capture of, So we tried to capture 2, like we identified 2 journeys. One is like the first time a customer is coming, and another journey was, let's say a customer has already booked something and then they are again calling the support system just to make some adjustments. So we identified 3 problems. We'll go one by one. The first problem that we identified is recapture of information again and again. So we see in the block diagrams that same thing is getting captured again and again. So yeah, I mean, we can remove those redundant steps and that way we can eliminate that problem. The second problem that we identify is, so the the getting the confirmation number on whatever it is getting booked. So we thought like we can fix that problem with moving that to an asynchronous process. So right now we are seeing it's a synchronous process where everything is getting done step by step. If we move this to a asynchronous process, then we can eliminate most of the wait time that we are gathering when like they are doing certain events actually. The third problem that we are trying to solve here is longer wait time and confirmation. So what we thought of is like the customer don't actually need to wait for the confirmation number. We can send out an email communication or any other forms of communication in order to tell them that like whatever they are looking for has been like confirmed, and we can share those details. So yeah, that's all for the first problem statement. The second problem statement, you want to get? So basically we divided both the challenges into like smaller groups.
Mic check. Okay, thank you. You're going to hold it for me. So problem 0, the starting place is a huge monolith solution, even though we've all probably seen bigger, but this is still quite big. So our solution for that is looking at using flow orchestration and more subflows, and even combining subflows to include like screen elements and stuff like this. Then you may notice that there's no error handling. I don't know if anybody spotted that, but we would definitely implement error handling. And then the final kind of problem was there's no real final confirmation. So you go through the whole screen flow and then you don't know what's happened. So we try to correct that as well and implement a confirmation screen. That's all we got.
Awesome. Nice job.
Group 5. Come on up. Woo-hoo.
Someone left it with me, so I'm gonna hold it up.
Okay, so with the first challenge, so what we observe is that they are asking some sequential question. Then there is no proper decision tree. The first problem is that there is no clear logic. There is no decision tree. So they should first check. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Yeah. So first thing is that there is no proper decision tree to check whether the customer is coming for new booking or for amendment. And then if they are coming for amendment, we are asking lots of questions. Customer might not be happy with that. So to reduce that effort, so we ask detail once and then capture it, and then not ask same question multiple times. Yeah, and then once identified, if they are coming for the flight or hotel or for transport, Then we should have another decision tree. Based on that, we'll ask for the question if required. So yeah, and then on the 3 topics, right? Clear logic, the decision tree is failing, and then data integrity, we are asking multiple questions and then align it to the business value so that it can be covered in very less time and give a good value to the customer. So this is the challenge. And for the challenge 2, we saw like there's a sequential flow. So again, there is no proper decision tree. If they are a logged in user, as we can see that there is a customer loyalty numbers, might be a returning customer. They might be registered with the company already. So first check whether they're logged in user or guest user. If they are guest user, then we'll definitely ask them to register on our website. And then for logged in user, we'll ask you already have the basic information. We can ask their unique ID and then get other informations, and then have proper decision tree to get information like whether they are coming for flight or hotel or for transport. And then we can have a one subflow which can do the booking and proceed the payment rather than having 3 different kind of subflow. And this that's whenever they are doing for search, it will be a real-time process when they get the result in real time. But when we are sending the order confirmation or sending the email, that can be an asynchronous process. So that.
Nice job.
Just to add on to that, so I think the main problem, we should know what is must have and what it should have. So at very initial point, we are asking too many details with the customer. Though we just need the customer name, phone number, and rest of the details we can ask only when we reach to the confirmation point of view. So that is one of the important things we have.
Thank you. Awesome job, group 5. Okay, group 6, final.
I'm the admin in the group.
Group 6.
There you go. Who's speaking?
Well, this is the most user friendly.
Yeah, if you can read from there. So it was really just looking at it from sort of the high level. First of all, what are you trying to get or trying to achieve? So there could be multiple different cases. There could be lots of requirements. You could be after something completely different. So try and break it into different areas first. Then it was looking at really what was at the
We said to, but the first few steps are completely redundant because from the phone number or some sort of confirmation, you get the customer ID. You should, and then you can confirm the details, confirm their preferences before you go any further. Give the options. It can be flight and hotel, just transport. Just you don't know what they want. You can't assume. Select what they want, and then send the confirmation, whatever, while you're still on the call. How many times I'm one of those that wants to not, let me wait for the confirmation until I'm on the call and then close the call. But from an admin BA point of view, I was dying. I was like, where? I need to call them. Who are they? Where are my users? Why? Why is this happening? Why? I'm going to sit next to you for 5 days. Understand why you're doing this way?
I wasn't.
Yes, I know. So for me, it was a tough exercise. This is all yours.
Oh, right, yeah. I was thinking just you don't need an agent. You don't need an agent at all, to be honest. Just do it exactly all from self-service the whole way, service cloud voice, all that kind of stuff. I couldn't see the point in anyone. And I'm not antisocial, by the way. So before they even try and log, frequently asked questions, self-service portal, just a bit of AI behind it could get a lot more information just to go and help them on their way. And if they feel there's nothing there useful, then only then you need to start gathering information. So we went through the flows and thought, we put in a bit of fault handling, a little bit of looking at what type of cases we've mentioned, and then just break it down to the basically one screen gathering based on the information you've got so far, dynamic screen, dynamic questions, various options, bit of error handling in there. I'm sure you can see from where we're at, and then maybe going on to kind of, if that's not there, maybe a quick chat functionality might get to a root cause, append that to the same case, all the information in one place. And then, am I going off piste on this one? And then we just grouped some of the subflows together because they're effectively doing data dips into the same repository, Salesforce, hopefully, that's assumed as part of this. Not necessarily so, obviously, or APIs and all the rest of it. And then grouping them together in terms of how the response is happening, what the information is getting back, giving the customer some options, and then putting it all in the final screen, which was my very bad writing. Can't even read it. Confirmation, it's like brackets, email. Yeah. Don't like email, but there you go.
Awesome job.
Next job.
Hey, thank you everyone for presenting your fantastic solutions. I know we're running a little over time, so we are going to quickly show you just one potential solution to both of the challenges that you saw this evening. So potential solution one, a more lean process that executes steps asynchronously.
And I think a lot of the groups, most of the groups touched on this. You know, we've got instead of that one big long endless process, we broke it down. We've got a series of steps that each do a granular, very specific task. So if you see we're retrieving the customer record instead of repeatedly asking questions, like you said. And at that point, if you actually look, and then we've got the, you know, reserving the hotels and the flights and everything, and then sending a communication out. But if you notice underneath where there's highlight number 3 here, after we get the customer's information, we're ending the call because we can launch all the reservations asynchronously. And like you said, maybe they need these things, maybe they don't. But it's we can do these things in the background. If there's an issue, we can notify the agent, and then maybe they have to call the customer and let them know their credit card was declined or whatever. But otherwise, what they can do, if everything's successful, they can send the communication out at the end, and that'll reduce the amount of time the customer is spending on the call.
Because that was the key KPI, like tying that back. That was the most important thing to the business.
Exactly.
Cool. So challenge 2. Oh, here's a little table that talks about all of the solutions that Tom just mentioned, and how they tie to well-architected. Because again, this is building a well-architected solution, so they all tie back to the framework. Okay.
And then potential solution number 2. So a couple of groups mentioned the using flow orchestrator rather than having one long flow with a bunch of subflows. And so what we've got there is we've got a series of stages. So we see we're getting the customer information, we're making the reservations, and we're sending the communication. And then if you notice, we've got the entry conditions that are different for each stage. So some of them do start, they require the previous step to be complete. And then if you look at it down at the bottom here, the entry condition is when the stage starts, the step starts. So these are going to execute asynchronously and all at the same time.
And this is synchronous, right?
Yes, and up on the top one is synchronous. And over at the end, we've got we've got a decision tree again, where if everything is successful, we can get the customer's preferred communication channel and send them the communication. And if not, we can communicate the errors to the agent, who can then follow up and, you know, maybe have to call the customer and do some manual steps to complete the process.
But we know not all of you are using Flow Orchestrator, so we wanted to show you an alternate solution as well.
So if you're not using Flow Orchestrator, it's because we know it's a paid product, but you can use a combination of flows rather than one long monolith flow. We can break this up into a screen flow to get the customer's information, another flow, record triggered flow to make the reservations. And if you notice in here, we've got an asynchronous path. So we're still doing the flights, the hotels, and the transportations all asynchronously. And within this box here shows what one of these would look like. They all kind of look the same, but the idea is that they've got a fault path to handle the errors. And then at the end, we're sending the communication. So we've got a series of granular steps, each one serving a specific purpose. And we've got asynchronous when necessary, synchronous in other times. And then we've got our error handling as well.
Awesome. So I think, yeah, we have another table that talks about why we chose these solutions and how they align to well-architected. And then I think, yes. So this workshop obviously focused on automated, which is just one of the 8 sort of sub-pillars you see here. There are workshops on the other topic. So if you're interested in learning more, be sure to check back with the organizers. They'll be enabled in the coming year so they can run their own workshops with you. So if you're interested in any of these topics, be sure to let them know. And I think I'll pass it back to you guys and get your slides up.
Thanks.
Well, big round of applause for the Well Architecture team. Thank you very much for facilitating those workshops. That's been really, really good. Thank you. Quick few little gifts for the presenters of those. So we can have group 1.
Well done. Bit of swag. It'll just be one between you, sorry. If there's some left. Group 2? Who's group 2? Group 2, group 2. Group 2? I think it has to go to Ryan, surely. Yeah. Group 3? There you go. Group 4? There you go. Well done. And was there one more?
I think group 6 doing it so bad.
Have to give away for group 5 and 6.
Oh, okay. 1 second. Group 6? Were you group 6?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Group 5.
And group 5. Who's group 5? There you go. Thank you very much. Okay, so. Do you want to say that?
Huh? Are we doing it?
I'll say, yeah. So. Thank you everyone for attending today. There are a number of other community events coming up in the coming months. Obviously, sorry,
London's calling.
London's calling obviously is
Tickets available. London's calling. Yeah.
Does anyone hear anything about London's calling? So the mega meet is in a few days' time. Unfortunately, it's sold out. So if you've got tickets for that, well done. We then have the marketing and Pardot user group coming up as well. Then we're into sort of after the festive period, and the one to note other than London's calling is this one here, which is in the making. So we'll have a We Love DevOps session. So, sorry.
And also, if you just happen to be in Copenhagen at the end of January, I'm presenting at the architect group there. So I'll see you there. Yeah.
So yeah, all tickets for these will probably go, posted in the community groups and online.
Yeah.
Watch this space and get there quick.
Cool. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Oh, and there was a question about DevOps Center online. And I did a podcast on Monday with Vernon Keenan, who is basically a data an industry analyst, research analyst, and we do talk about the DevOps ecosystem. And I know that came up a while, so just search out Salesforce Posse on your podcast and listen to it or watch it. All good. Thanks a lot. Thanks. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, go. Oh my God. 1, 2.